I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy, and I've watched many shows, from the good to the bad to the downright ugly. But one of my favorites, and the one that stuck in my brain the most, is James Acaster's Repertoire. And this is because it's quite a unique show. Most stand-up comics just get on stage, tell a story about their life, generally with a couple jokes in there, and then leave. But James Acaster Repertoire is like if James was kind of telling you a story, while it was in a trench coat covered in glitter. And that should make sense to you if you've seen the special. But if not, I highly recommend you do, as the majority of what I'm going to talk about in this video won't make sense if you haven't seen it. It's currently on Netflix, but if you don't have Netflix, I'm sure there's some piracy sites that have it. Just to be clear, I'm not advocating for piracy, right? But if you wanted to, there's nothing I could do to stop you. So, you've read the title. This is Solving James Acaster Repertoire. Now to clarify, when I say solve, I really just mean create a timeline of events. As James does tell a story in the show, but it's kind of broken up and shuffled about around the 4 specials. But after watching the specials several times, I feel I have a pretty good grasp on what the story is and the order of events. So, let's start off with childhood. Now, we don't know too much about James's childhood. All we really know is that he wanted to be an undercover spy when he grew up. But, of course, you can't just say that. Because if you run around as a child saying that you want to be an undercover spy, by the time you are and you try to invade a gang of drug dealers or something, they're going to know that you wanted to be an undercover spy. So they're already going to know that the jig is up. So, as a child, James thought ahead, and he told everyone they wanted to be a drug dealer. Because then, when you're an undercover spy, infiltrate a gang of drug dealers, they know. You've always wanted to be a drug dealer, never an undercover spy, of course. But that's all we really know about James's childhood, so let's move on to early adult life. Now there are a couple of details here that I couldn't really figure out how to fit into the timeline, like he was in a 2-person band with his friend Graham. Where the ball really starts rolling is when he starts his honey business with his friend Sean. Sean and James create a business where they sell honey to grocery stores and buy it back. Now this doesn't make sense, you couldn't make a profit doing that. If it weren't for the fact that honey is a loss leader, which means that grocery stores sell it for less than they buy it for. Now the reason they do this is so that they can increase prices of other stuff. So they can keep honey cheap, but they can make everything else way more expensive. Now for the first weekend of the business, they just had a bee named Climbellagio, and they let it create 5 jars of honey. And so Sean took those 5 jars and sold it to the grocery store. Then James comes in the next day to buy the jars of honey for himself. And they keep doing this, day in, day out. On the first day, Sean sells. Second day, James buys. Sean sells, James buys. Sean sells, James buys. And this is making them good money. But then James realizes that this might look suspicious, the same guy coming in every other day buying the same 5 jars of honey. So James and Sean agrees that they should hire some more employees. So they put up a couple posters and they get 4 new employees. And so with James and the other 4 employees, they go to the store and they grab all 5 jars of honey. And I'll let you know what's a bit more suspicious than one person buying 5 jars of honey every other day. 5 people, all at the same till, buying 1 jar of honey each. And so after James realizes this, James and Sean decide to fire the employees. But the employees threaten James and Sean with reporting the business for being a fraud. And so James and Sean do the honorable thing, march themselves down to the police station, and rat on the 4 other guys before they can rat on them. And so this leads us into witness protection. And so in witness protection, James changes his name to Pat Springleaf and Sean changes his name to Daryl. And so, James and Sean, now Pat and Daryl, move from Kettering to Luga Baruga to be lollipop people. And in this business is where James meets his wife. See, James and Sean were both at a party celebrating the promotion of one of their friends, when a beautiful woman walks in, and James says to Sean, "Daryl, I'm gonna marry that woman." And so James and her start chatting, and they start bonding over a game of Twister, until she suggests that they get rid of the spinner, and James, rightfully so, puts the game away. And then after 6 months, someone proposed. We don't know who, but someone proposed, and they got married. And so in the 10 years that James is married to this woman, he gets promoted from Lollipop Man to Community Support Officer to Undercover Cop. He's finally doing what he's always wanted to do since he was a little boy. And so as an undercover cop, his first job is to infiltrate a gang called SW6, who are dealing drugs to stand-up comedians. So he poses as a stand-up comedian to get close to the group. Hence why James is a stand-up comedian. Now he gets pretty close with the gang members, them being Lawrence, Huey, Mason, and Reggie. And they go through quite a few things. Now while he's on this case, his wife leaves him for being too caught up with the case, after 10 years of marriage. So he dives headfirst into his work. But after a confrontation with the SW5 gang in which he shouts his entire postcode in full, he is forced to move, which means he can't continue with the case as he is no longer close to the SW6 gang. And so, he moves next door to a Mexican restaurant. Hey, thank you for watching. This video was quite fun to make. As said in the intro, this is one of my favorite comedy specials, so I actually really enjoyed making this video, as I just got to watch one of my favorite comedy specials. In retrospect, I realized that the final thing I mentioned, the moving next door to a Mexican restaurant, is one of the first things he mentioned in the entire show, which is an interesting bookend. It came full circle. This wasn't the video I planned for this month. As the script for that video I realized I probably wouldn't be able to finish, and I didn't really finish this video. I more just had a bunch of notes that I just improv'd on, but I hope it turned out good. You can let me know by giving me a little bit of thumb, and make sure to subscribe as I'm trying to upload monthly throughout the entire year of 2025. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next month.